Yeah.
And I can't find a seconder usually when I propose this, but I don't care. I don't need a seconder. My own opinion is enough for me, and I claim the right to have it defended against any consensus, any majority, anywhere, any place, any time. And anyone who disagrees with this can pick a number, get online, and kiss my ass.
No representation is made that the quality of legal services to be performed are greater than the legal services provided by other lawyers. I'm Harry Steele. You found the Backstory Podcast, live from Florence, Alabama. I do have some folks in the studio, but we're going to wait and hold on to them until after our regular fare. Mr. Rip, you're in Fairhope. What's going on down there?
Waiting on that weather to change. Looks like we're going to get a rain event, maybe. We'll know by noon tomorrow, probably.
That hurricane going into New Orleans?
No. Well, it hasn't said yet.
Nope, not going to be hurricane.
I think it's going to be a hurricane. I think it's going to take
resident meteorologist Rains Russian, tell us all about it.
I think it's going to take a little more of a westerly track. Once it gets to the Gulf, it's going to kind of straighten out and bend a little further to the north, to the west, and not to the northwest. And I think we're looking somewhere like between Lake Charles and Lafayette. The Atchafalaya Basin going to get a ton of it. So we'll know more tomorrow, but that's what it's looking like now.
Better them than us, as usual.
That's the third time for them.
So we're gonna have a little bit of a different kind of lineup today, guys. We're gonna start out with the Lagniappe, and Paul, tell us about what's going on in Bayou La Batterie.
Well, Bayou La Batterie, those of you who've been following that, is a lawsuit against the former housing officials over there, and they're still pending criminal charges. And right now they're in the legal of arguing who's right and who's wrong, and they've took a whole bunch of personal property evidently as evidence, and just everybody pointing fingers at each other. But those of you that remember, this is where they awarded themselves a $1 million retirement policy. So those of you following it, the article is Where Are They Now? And that was written by Gabe Times this week. Then another one that was interesting is everybody's heard of the Alabama hammer. Well, evidently he better get a bigger hammer, because there's a Jim the Hammer in Texas.
Jim Adler.
Yeah. Now
is he on every billboard in Texas?
Yeah.
Yeah, now they have a lawsuit each other as to who gets to hold the hammer. So we'll see what happens there. The Beltway Beat, winner and losers of Trump's visit to Alabama. That's by Jeff Poore. He qualified loser as a Katie Britt, and a winner as Marjorie Taylor Greene. I will totally bite my tongue at this point. Anyway,
I think Jeff Poore's an idiot. I'm not biting shit. I'm
not going to go that far, but he does make a point that with Richard Shelby, he also put Richard Shelby as a loser, and has Alabama
because they didn't show up to kiss Trump's ass. That makes them losers.
Well,
I doubt it.
Well, I'm telling you what.
I'll go this far. I'll say I disagree with Jeff Poore on a lot of things, but he's far from an idiot. And
really,
right.
And to be honest about that, and after watching that rally and seeing what was said and how it was said, there was a lot of people kind of stumped, sitting up there waving their flags when Donald Trump said go and get vaccinated. There were a lot of them kind of like, wait, what? And little quips like that, little sound bites like that can sway an electorate. And if Katie Boy Britt plays it just right, she'll sweep at this point. I'm not kidding.
Maybe, but the point that Jeff makes as well is that Shelby's on the verge of going 0-3 in the Senate races by backing Luther Strange, Jeff Sessions, and now Katie Britt. So let's hope that third time is a charm. Yeah, the Hidden Agenda by Ashley Trice, Keep America Miserable, and that's about the COVID and where we are right now. And her fear is that we will end up being far more dangerous than the virus. Perhaps it won't kill us, but it is a cancer. that will certainly keep America miserable. Somebody stick that on a ball cap. We've got to get over it. It seems like that's the only feeling people on both mountains see from each other. You're either for or against, and there has to be some type of meeting in the center here. Last but not least is Damn the Torpedoes, a shining city on the bay. Now, Lagniappe this week, of course, has got all of your updates on the mayor election. Sandy Simpson won, and the council and which councilmen are in and out and everything, so you can get your Lagniappe on that. Damn the Torpedoes is where Rob talks about the potential of Mobile and where it can be and where it will be in the future. And the conversation that I hear all the time in every country I've lived and small community is that the kids grow up, they get educated, and then they have to move to get a job because nothing is around them to get a job. So that's a pretty good article. Bring you a little bit of an update. Any of you that have been in the family court, we went over the article last week by Gabe Times, Loaded Question. That's the federal lawsuit addressing Michelle Thomason acting as a circuit court judge when elected as a district court. We've heard nothing more on that, but we'll keep you updated. Next is the one with Mr. Albritton and the self-dealing ethics director. And think about that, folks. This is the executive ethics director of the Ethics Commission for the state of Alabama, and he's self-dealing with a trust where he's a trustee. Well, we've got no response back, and Regions was one of the trustees. We didn't get any answers on those questions from Regions. I don't think they have a sense of humor that I sent them, Harry. But and then, of course, we've heard not too much more on Mr. Albritton, but we're not giving up on that. We're going to be notifying everybody in the state, if we can, to wake up as to what's going on. The RIP report today is either going to be what will history be in 20 years or what a shame it is. So one of those two will be the topic. You can catch us on the ripreport.com. And Harry, I'll hand it back to you in Florence there.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Rip. So
all right,
I will let you introduce yourself. What's your name, young lady?
My name is Whitney Trotman.
Well, Whitney, what's your maiden name?
Hibbett.
And so I'm sure everyone's heard of Hibbett Sporting Goods. Range, you ever heard of Hibbett Sporting Goods? They got Hibbetts out there?
I think they were, weren't they some kind of small company out of Lake Martin? Oh, wait, no, that's Russell Athletic. Sorry, I hated to drop your number one.
I've been doing business with Hibbett Sporting Goods in Homewood, Alabama, probably since they opened, because we opened up our dive shop there, I believe, in 71 or 72. And Hibbett's was one of the first stores in the area. Is that right?
I believe so.
And so that was your father was a coach who started a mail order.
He was not a coach.
He wasn't a coach.
No, his daddy, Rufus Hibbett, actually started the company, and then Daddy got interested and took over. And the first one was on Florence Boulevard here, and he grew all over Alabama and Mississippi, and there was 40 when he sold them. Okay. So now this is kind of a story about business and a story about football and a story about politics. Yeah. So you're going to have to bear with us. So you were married to Charlie Trotman.
And he played at Auburn, right?
He played at Auburn.
And he's an attorney.
70s, he has his law degree.
And he is a developer.
Yeah, real estate developer, and he does sports talk show. Right.
So, did you guys marry right out of college? No.
That's a long story.
Oh, that's a long story, huh?
Yeah. I went to Alabama.
Okay.
And Auburn.
Yeah.
Yeah, didn't know him. He would ask my sister out first.
make for a happy couple.
So
This is getting good.
it's a long story.
We're not even to the good
No,
to the juicy parts yet.
yeah.
So, but you have a brother,
I do.
and he also married someone in the football family around here, right?
That's correct.
And so, tell us your brother's name and who he married.
It is
and all that.
Kneeland Hibbett, and he and Missy Homan got married.
And her father
is Dennis Homan,
and
who
he played
at Alabama.
opposite Ray Perkins. He was another tight end, and that's when Stabler was there, the snake.
Right.
And so he's kind
And
of a
Leroy
local
Jordan.
celebrity up here too.
Yeah.
So your brother married Miss
Missy,
Homan,
right.
and she went on to get a law degree also at
She
Alabama.
sure did, yes.
And at some point, do you know what year she was elected to be the circuit court clerk here in Lauderdale County?
Right.
And do you remember what year that was?
Do not remember.
Late 2000s?
I can't remember.
Well, so the audit report I've looked at, the earliest one I saw was 2012. So let's just say 9 years or so.
Right, that's about right.
So so there were some legal. So at some point in 2015, Missy tells your brother that they're done.
Right.
And so your brother was in the compounding pharmacy business, is that right?
Yes.
And they had a couple of different locations where they were doing that.
Here and in Foley.
Okay, and his business partner lived down in Baldwin County.
Right.
And so upon hearing the news that his wife was leaving him, his business partner encouraged him to come down to Fairhope to stay at the Grand Hotel.
Yes, for the weekend, instead of going to see the little
children's,
Kneeland, right, play baseball.
Or whatever. So anyway, while he is there, he is accused of passing a note to his business partner's babysitter. No. He was accused of what?
Of handing a note to a 14-year-old girl that was there babysitting two other small children.
Okay. So my understanding is the sheriff's department shows up at his room and takes him into custody, and they arrest him, and they charge him with soliciting a child for sexual purposes.
Enticing, of a minor.
So it wouldn't be much of a story if that's kind of where it ended.
Exactly. But it does not end there.
So it doesn't end there. So
how old was the child?
14.
So
14.
So anyway, he is the bond is really laughable. It's like a $5,000 bond.
That's right.
Because the evidence was flimsy at best. So then the circuit clerk up here takes advantage of this situation and has makes it where he can't see his children.
That's because it's his ex-wife who is the circuit clerk.
Right. So they're going through this divorce, and these allegations are swirling, and it turns out that, guess what, Paul? Missy, the circuit clerk up here, is big pals and comes down to the beach all the time and stays with our circuit clerk in Baldwin County.
Nothing.
So they're big pals, right? So, So anyway, why this full court press? So at some point, and I've got the transcript right here, Circuit Criminal Case Number 15-1851, the Honorable Lang Floyd on January 14th, 2016. So this was when Hallie Dixon was our district attorney. Pretty damn dismal record, by the way. And what's the best way to tell this? So Mr. Hibbett is accused of violating the terms of his bond.
Yes,
and he was on an ankle monitor after the first allegation. Right. So then the second allegation, they all come down here, and by that time it's gone from district court to circuit court. It's got a CC case number. So Judge Floyd hears the evidence from the DA's office, who are recommending revoking this man's bond and putting him in jail pending trial. So at the end of the day, after hearing, I don't know, this must have taken half an hour. It's 40, something pages long, maybe 50. And ultimately, after hearing all this hubbub, the judge admonishes the district attorney's office for having they said, okay, what did he do? He texted his children that he loved them.
Right after he got out of jail the first time.
Right. After he's arrested for this, he texts his children. And these are the grounds for his revocation. So not only does the judge not revoke him, he takes the damn ankle monitor off and says, I don't know what the hell you guys are playing at, but this is unethical for you to be talking to her divorce attorney and taking cues from them because it looks like you're playing tennis from one end of the state to the other. So anyway, eventually, after this admonishment and our new, believe it or not, I have something nice to say about Bob Wilters. So when Wilters comes in 2017, he takes one look at this thing and he goes, we don't have enough evidence to convict this guy. So they offer him a deal and they say, tell you what, just because we spent a bunch of money on this, we really need a conviction. So if you would, please plead guilty to misdemeanor harassing communication.
Right.
Which is no different than I call Raines up and say, you're a shithead, and hang up the phone. Harassing communications. Mm-hmm. So what do you think the word is up here in Florence on your brother?
That he's a child pervert.
That he's a perv.
Yeah.
And that his poor little wife, she, oh my goodness, woe is her. Yeah. It's so terrible. So anyway, as the divorce turns, every once in a while a divorce attorney actually does his damn job.
Larry, time out. Did he take the plea? I think that's the question our listeners want to answer.
Oh, I'm sorry.
He
did take the plea. And I can understand about a billion reasons that he would have done that with all the things that were pending related to his children. Okay? So anyway.
He was put in jail down there in Baldwin County for 30 days. Because he texted his kids.
If you can imagine that.
On the revocation, right.
So anyway, we have so Paul, the state auditor, your pal, Mr. Ziegler, he is in charge of he's a glorified property manager. He is supposed to keep inventory of the state, how many vehicles the state has, how many chairs, desks, that kind of thing. Quite separately, by statute, there's a state examiner who is appointed, and there's an organization called the Examiners of Public Accounts. They were established in 1883, and the Department of Examiners of Public Accounts conducted an audit of Missy Homan's office and found several irregularities. Now, you got to remember, these people are like cliquish famous up here, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's hard to believe that anything's ever going to befall Missy Homan, which, of course, it doesn't.
No, it doesn't.
Even though there were two findings saying that related 2018.001 related to the purchase of personal nature using the Circuit and District Court Clerk's Office debit card. And then related to the failure of the Circuit and District Court Clerk to properly maintain documentation for a purchase made from the clerk's office fund. So two findings, and here's the interesting thing, guys. So as bad as the Constitution of 1901 is of the state of Alabama, there are three provisions that are genius. The one that Missy Homan violated is Article 4, Section 93, which says provides that the state of Alabama shall not extend its credit to any individual. So Section 94 and 95 have to say the state can't lend its credit to private enterprise. So she certainly did this by making these purchases. And, of course, her excuse was, well, I bank at the same place and the debit cards look the same. Not multiple times. So then the other finding is minimal accounting requirements for the Office of Circuit and District Courts prescribed by the Chief Examiner of Public Accounts requires invoices to be retained for all purchases from the clerk's fund. A purchase was made from the clerk's fund in the amount of $277.88, for which no invoice or other supporting documentation was retained or made available for review. Anyway, she spent a bunch of money, didn't keep the receipts, didn't turn them in. You know, you can call it sloppy, you can call it corrupt, you can call it whatever you want to. But interestingly enough, about the time this investigation gets kicked off, you got to remember we're in North Alabama, boys, and everybody's Democrats up here, or they were.
They were.
Until Missy, her pal, the DA, and a couple of the judges all switched to the Republican Party, and this whole thing gets canned.
That's right.
Well,
and there's some people, and there's some. So I've been up here talking to some people who have firsthand information about this kind of stuff, and everybody keeps pointing me in the direction of this ABI agent that works at the Attorney General's office named Robert Moore. So if any of you guys know Bobby Moore, who's an ABI agent, and you can cozy up to him and buy him a drink, I'm sure he could talk for about 50 hours about all the things that he found while he was here that nobody cares to listen to.
Yes, he is a special investigator that I met with several times, and he even got a crew and came to North Alabama to do research and investigate the courthouse. Their
and
records.
So it's my understanding the day that the clerk's office was shut down, her father was across the street signing autographs, or in the clerk, or out in the foyer of the clerk's office.
That was during an audit.
Oh, that was during the audit.
An audit.
See how celebrity works for us up here, guys. And see, and you got to remember. So Paul went to Alabama. You're aware of the machine at Alabama, right? You got 4 or 5 different little fraternities and sororities that pretty much control everything on campus. So these
Lanyard has a whole series, that whole series on Alabama that they just ran.
Right, the Board of Trustees, Steve Flowers having a do-nothing job. Right.
Just flowing around between people that don't even have tenure.
So the question is what exactly do you have to do as a celebrity public official to get in any trouble? Don't know, but she ain't done it yet? I mean, is that the bottom line?
It's gotten away with everything else.
I don't know. In Alabama, I think the threshold for that's pretty high. You know, it seems we've had so many proven allegations against so many people in public office up there that, you know, I don't understand why a lot of people go Hill aren't at least looking at federal prison right now. But there's a threshold for what society and the electorate will tolerate in the state of Alabama, and I believe it's pretty high. It feels like it's pretty high. Like you need a Mississippi burning type situation to convict anybody in that state.
Yeah, well, look, we're talking about the executive director of the Ethics Commission, for Christ's sake, is skimming. If you, the thing that I can tell you will happen with any type of complaints or trying to get anything done out of accountability, if it's related politically to the Republican Party, it will be buried. And their entire defense will be total silence. No matter what you throw at them, they won't do a damn.
Well, look,
I have run into that.
So all I have is experience. I have experience with the examiners of public accounts and working in a county courthouse for about 15 years. And I can tell you, I mean, I don't know how in the world this thing didn't end up in an indictment or a true bill, but it's just hard to believe. It's hard to believe.
Good old boy.
Well, let me add a little. Let me add a little to this based on, while Harry, you do have a wealth of experience in public office, you don't have a wealth of experience being involved in the political machine because the offices you served in were under people who were elected, and the elected officials of your state and your county and municipality, whether they want to or not, are usually part of a political machine. Right now, the Republican political machine is galvanizing the Southern vote. There is going to be no Southern strategy anymore. It's just not going to happen. because the Republican machine saw what happened in Georgia and said in the last election, and said we cannot allow minority votes to carry a state in the urban areas. So they are galvanizing the political machine all through the South. The Southern strategy is no longer, at least in the next 20 years, is not going to be a viable political strategy. The things that you see, like what Texas is reading into the record today, the SB 1, a voter restriction bill, the same thing they had in Georgia, the same one they have in Florida. That's all part of a political machine. And what you're seeing, and what this seems like a direct result of, is the galvanizing of the political machine. They said, look, we'll dangle this offer out here for you. If you become part of this Republican political machine and get into the favor system and get into the scratch my back, I'll scratch yours, we'll make certain problems for you. That's the entire base gears in a political machine. And it certainly sounds like this family was, I'm not going to use the word victim of this, but I will say that you were definitely manipulated in this scenario.
There's no question.
By political machinery that isn't even based in Alabama. It's based in Washington, D.C.
Well, I just think the voters would like to know that their money can be used by the circuit clerk for whatever she wants to buy. And then
use her influence to try to bury your husband in anticipation of a divorce. Now, we always like to drag law enforcement in any time we can. So there's I don't know that there was any testimony that that the circuit clerk up here was seeing the state trooper that she's now married to, but he's got rank and all that, and a wife and 3 kids that he left his wife for to marry her. So
right.
Anyway, well, let me ask you one other question. Like in what we do, Harry, or what I do, I ultimately have a finalized written complaint, whether they do it or not, whether they do anything on it or not, just as a paper trail. Now, what exists here in this case? As far as the complaint, who is it lodged with?
You're talking about okay. We're back to the wife, who's the circuit clerk. So there was a complaint filed with the Attorney General's office, and there was also an ethics complaint filed.
That's right.
And of course, the ethics thing didn't go any frickin' where, and the Attorney General's office did appoint somebody, but then it looks like once Steve Marshall got in there, it all went tits up.
Well, we had a situation in Faro where the investigator from ethics came down, investigated this. This was on the bid rigging at the airport with one of the councilmen, Jack Burrell. And so I told him when I first met him, I said, when you go back and you report what you find, they're not going to allow you to stand up to your report. And he said, oh, you don't understand. I'm an investigator, and what I come back with is it. They got to take what I got. And what happened was exactly like I said. They got right back to the Ethics Commission, and not only did they poo-poo the whole thing, the investigator ended up quitting, and the Ethics Commission actually mentioned him in a letter that, so-and-so said there was nothing, that he couldn't find anything that was wrong, which was absolutely, totally wrong. So that's the same thing here.
All right, so I got one better for you. So the lead investigator in this case dropped dead on a treadmill.
Yep.
And then it got handed to another investigator who apparently didn't think there was much to it.
That's unfortunate.
Yeah.
Right. So the guy who originally investigated this thing dropped dead on a treadmill
of a heart attack
about a week before he had concluded his investigation and was going to report it all. Not that we think the University of Alabama can actually kill people, but they don't. Saban doesn't hold that thunderbolt, I don't think, yet. So So, Raines, tell me more about this damn hurricane or whatever it's doing. I've been away from the coast. Nobody up here has a mask on, dude. They look at me like I'm from Saudi Arabia or some shit walking around here with a mask on.
That's not shocking to me at all. I mean, you're in the same position health-wise as we are here in Texas. I actually got confronted the other day at the store when I was wearing my mask, and I gave one of my typical retorts. The gentleman asked me, said, "Why are you wearing a mask?" and not wanting to pick a fight because I'm recovering from knee surgery and I'm also nearly 50 years old. I said, because this store was all out of mind your own effing business. So I just did that and went and got in the car because you're right. Every day I pick up my son from school, my son comes walking along. He's the only one that's got a mask on. Everybody else has done ripped theirs off or not having it on at all. And
every hospital down here is full.
It's a sad state of affairs with that, but it's like, I read an interesting quote from a guy named Thomas Sowell the other day. I don't know if you guys know who Thomas Sowell is. I read him a lot. He's a bit of a conservative, but he leans pretty libertarian. He's a chair at the Stanford University's Hoover Institution for Foreign Policy. And he said a while back, he said, it's usually futile to try to talk facts and analysis to people who are enjoying a sense of moral superiority or ignorance. And that's where we're at in Alabama and in Texas and in Mississippi and in Georgia and Louisiana. There are people right now that believe that the hurricane coming into southern Louisiana will do a great deal to wash away the COVID virus.
That's possible.
I have very little to say about that. It's just, this is going to be another storm. The people in the Atchafalaya Basin and the people in Lake Charles and Lafayette are just kind of shaking their heads like, gosh, not again. I hate that it's going to happen to them, but I do believe that's where it's going to hit. I thought it was going to jog a little further west. But again, I'm not a meteorologist. I'm an amateur prognosticator of hurricanes. And at this point, I am 19-2 for calling landfalls. So I'll still keep doing it. But this one I was a little wrong about. Unless it takes a really dramatic jog to the west, it's going to be Lafayette. I do believe probably as a Category 3.
All right, I got some rapid-fire topics for you guys. First of all, Alabama will not be taking part in the multi-million-dollar opioid settlement, $25 billion. Alabama is one of 8 states and expected to opt out and do their own lawsuit.
Money's on the table.
Money's on the table. They won't take it.
No, it's correct, but it's legally feasible. We saw a lot of the same thing during the big tobacco trial of the early 1990s. Mississippi led the way in that lawsuit, and once that was settled, that money went to Mississippi, and other states learned that they should have filed their own mass tort lawsuits because they'd have gotten more money based on a statewide settlement than they would have from an award from a jury trial over many states.
Well, so not doing anything else. So what the hell?
Yeah, it's one of those things. There's not much political hay to be made in a mass tort lawsuit against a pharmaceutical company. The state of Alabama does not have the opioid problem that a lot of other states do.
I think they come up here to Florence and walk around behind a dumpster. You'll find 7 people passed out from opioids.
Yeah, but you may find 7 people passed out behind a dumpster in Florence, Alabama because of opioids, but go to Connecticut and you find 70. That's the point I'm trying to make, is that if you get awarded based on cases, Alabama's not going to see a huge federal reward. So it's because they don't have the magnitude of the problem that other states do. So
I thought we had like 1,000 people a month dying of opioid overdoses. Is that not right?
I don't know.
I don't believe that's correct. There's quantified analysis involved in that, just like there is for COVID.
I'm going to look that shit up when I get home. It bothers me nothing.
You go right ahead and look it up, and you might be convinced that what I'm talking about is correct. And you'll find that on a state-by-state basis, Alabama would if they got a piece of the national settlement, would get a much lower piece than if they sued them themselves.
So, Paul, do you know where the Romar Beach Baptist Church and Retreat Center is? It's down in Orange
I know
Beach, Romar right there.
I know
It's like the last little piece of beach that doesn't have a 700-foot tall condominium on it. Well, of course, the city of Orange Beach has rezoned it, and so I'm sure it's soon to be sold. The other issue, one of the things that I try to keep y'all up on is facial recognition technology, and it turns out that 10 federal agencies from the Department of Agriculture to Veterans Affairs say they will intend to grow their facial scanning and capabilities. And so if you have been diagnosed with COVID-19 and you are feeling puny, starting tomorrow, you will be able to go to a clinic in Summerdale and get monoclonal antibody treatment. You familiar with that, Paul? Do you know about that?
Right, and I would discourage people from doing the horse warmer and drinking Clorox after it.
Oh man, you jumping ahead of me. So the Poison Control Center in Alabama has received 24 reports of people being poisoned with ivermectin intended for equestrian use. A horse.
Right.
But it says ivermectin on the thing, right?
Yes.
And then so the Major Crimes Unit has been tasked with, now I know this is hard to believe, Raines, but like, I don't know, every car at some car lot in Foley got the catalytic converter cut out from under it.
I didn't hear about that.
between the time the sun went down and it came back up. And so the Major Crimes Unit is all over it. I'm sure they're going to have this thing solved in no time. And then one of the things that I was really excited about, who gives the Emmys, Raines? Is that the Screen Actors Guild?
Oh, I don't know.
No, I can't remember the name of the organization, but it's,
Well, they stripped
like
Cuomo's. Cuomo no longer has an Emmy for his coverage of the pandemic and all that. And so did you guys see the little old lady that was Facebook Living right before her house got swept away and she drowned?
No.
Yeah, there was a bunch of flooding. Linda Almond. Moments after Linda Almond went on Facebook Live to show the storm in Waverly, Tennessee, she was clinging to a power line.
I saw Holmes.
And she
I read about it, but I didn't watch the video, no.
Yeah, well, I tried not to. I tried not to watch it, but I kind of had to. And then, so the last thing I'll throw out there for you guys to gnaw on is our state auditor Jim Ziegler, who is saying that he's going to run for governor or testing the waters, and he says he hopes that Tim James and Leonard Blanchard also get in the race.
Oh,
is he hoping they'll split the? Nobody's going to beat Kay Ivey.
No.
They're all wasting their money and our time. So,
one other thing, Harry, I can't give the details on it, but the medical marijuana thing in Alabama is going to hell in a handbasket. The people that were appointed, now some people have questions about them. All kinds of stuff is going on. So we'll have to get with them and get a clear picture of that and report on it next week. This all just happened yesterday.
And I guess we can talk a little bit about the terrible situation at the Cabal Airport where, was it 13 Marines were killed yesterday by a suicide bomber?
They weren't all Marines, but it's a total of 15 dead. That was a force from CENTCOM. It was a multi-branch force, but
that's what I read.
There were a number of Marines killed, a number of Army personnel and Navy personnel as well.
Yeah, I knew a corpsman bought it. But then there were who knows how many Afghan civilians inside that blast radius that were just annihilated.
Yeah. Up to 6.
Yeah.
How many?
But I don't see, and I'm certainly not making light of it at all, but I don't see how you could expect this drawdown under any president at any time not to have something like this happen after 20 years of embedding ourselves in the country.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't see how it could have gone any other way. I was holding my breath the whole time. I just hope to God they get everybody out of there the last day and done.
We ain't out of there yet. Far
Well,
from
no,
it.
I'll say this from my own experience. ISIS-K and all of the factions of ISIS use a network of female suicide bombers. And because the Taliban were manning the outer checkpoints, I don't know if you guys know this, but if you are a devout Muslim man, you are not allowed to touch another woman unless she is your wife.
Yeah.
And there'd be a lot of men without hands around here.
There'd be a lot in jail.
Well, what happens is you have a woman come up to the gate and say she's going to get through. She just gets a cursory inspection. They don't pat her down. And sadly, I believe that this was the case, and that this was a female suicide bomber, and she wasn't frisked by the outer security and made it into the densest part there at the Abbey Gate and detonated the explosive.
And the people realize that the Taliban and ISIS absolutely hate each other.
Yeah, but they kind of hate us worse.
Yes.
Yeah, that's the thing. The enemy of my enemy is my friend sort of thing. But the Taliban, like I explained to my wife the other day, that this is more of a diplomatic scenario for the Taliban. They are really playing a statecraft game right now, not a military game.
Right.
They're going to want diplomatic recognition for their government after this is over. And that's why they're playing along as well as they are. And President Biden was correct when he said, these are not good guys. We're not saying that the Taliban are great guys, but we do have an agreement in place that was put in under the last administration called the Doha Agreement, and we are abiding by it. And that's that. It's tragic. It's terrible, but you're never going to see Richard Shelby with a tactical vest and a rifle in his hands and an overseas combat theater. It's always going to be a kid from Wetumpka who's 19 years old and
doesn't
had to shave.
know shit. He just started shaving, and they gave him a rifle.
Right. Doesn't know how to use it.
Well, he knows how to use it. Probably not with much discretion. So
yeah, I look at those pictures of Vietnam of a lot of people that I knew, and I said, "Damn, man, we were really young."
No kidding.
They're always really young.
That's right. Nobody knows.
So the intelligence community, and I don't know what exactly that means. This was put out by CBS News. It says the intelligence community delivered a report on the origins of COVID-19 to President Biden. And these are findings from a 90-day investigation into where and how the outbreak began, the White House said. So you and I can't read this yet. Hell, it may be like the JFK assassination. We'll have to wait 50 years to find out what the report said, but a report has been made, which I believe is progress. Got to start somewhere. All right, guys. So what do y'all got going on this weekend? I'm in the car for 5.5 hours getting back from North Alabama.
I'm staying put because I don't know what's going to happen weather-wise, but I would encourage them in Florence to come up with some type of real solid paper trail. You don't know when this might come back up again later. And it would be real good for you to have everything, documented and set out. They might not have done anything now, but you just can't tell what's going to happen in the future. I found that works for me quite a bit. That's why we got Mr. Albritton in the position he is now, because what he's doing is so wrong, and Ethics Commission's allowing other people to do it. So,
well, it's like I said, I think the voters here in Lauderdale County need to know. And it's been kept from them.
Harry happens to know a top-tier investigator if such services are needed, although they're not free, but just throwing that out there.
No advertising on the air.
Right. No representation is made that Raines is any more ethical than any other investigator. For damn sure.
And I will stand that I am much less ethical than most investigators, if that helps the caveat.
That's what you need.
Good for you, dude. All right. Well, I will catch y'all next time. I appreciate everybody's time.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. And
thank you for being on the show today, man. We enjoy having you.
Thank you.
Right.
And tell Charlie War Eagle.
I will. For you.
couple of high-stepping turkeys, and you know